know, you look forward to this every day. I have an attachment for them. I like it. I really enjoy the challenge and the working conditions and so forth. I think that's why everybody stays.
You just approaching the piers area, maybe a mile.
Well, I started on the Great Lakes and have been solely on the Great Lakes. I started in 1948 as a deckhand on the old United States gypsum. And I worked my way up, and in 1953 I wrote for a license. You will go from deckhand to deck watch to watchman, wheelsman, and then wheelsman to the mate's license. And 1953, and in 1955 I had my first third mate's job. It was on the old Diamond Alkali. And from that time on I've been third mate, second mate, first mate, captain. In 1977 I went captain, the old David P. Thompson. It was built in 1977 at Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. We carry a crew of 28 people. Well, usually this boat lays up in Superior or Duluth, Superior, Wisconsin, or Duluth, Minnesota, and it's all prepared in the wintertime to start out from Duluth with a load of coal, western coal from Decker, Montana, or Spring Creek, Wyoming, and we carry it down to St. Clair, Michigan, deliver that cargo, then go back up in ballast to get another cargo. The total journey is about 1,340 miles, and we carry about 42,000 tons of coal each time at a draft of 26 feet 6 inches.
On the motor vessel St. Clair here, it's powered by 3 General Motors diesels, 20 cylinders each, 3,500 horsepower, and the fuel consumption at full speed is approximately 7,000 gallons of number 2 diesel a day.
No better life. I can work 6 months and take the next 6 off. It's a good life.
I don't think you have as many young people as interested in this life anymore as there was years ago. I know the small town where I came from, one time we had like 400 people aboard the ships. Today I don't think there's 40. You have to be a person able to get along with other people because you're confined so much all the time. And we have to remember one thing, that individuals can't succeed at this. You got to work as a unit. It doesn't take the captain alone or the chief alone or the cook alone. It takes everybody to make the thing operate smoothly.
The 3 main engines go into one reduction gearbox. The main engine RPM is 900, and the gearbox reduces a propeller shaft to 120 RPM, and it pushes the boat through the water at approximately 16 miles an hour.
The first mate is the man responsible for the loading and the discharging of the cargo. We haul about 47 cargoes a year, probably close to 2 million tons of cargo. All this cargo to Detroit Edison Utility at St. Clair, Michigan. And they burn about 30,000 tons a day, so there's 3 ships solely committed to the St. Clair plant. There's very little downtime on these ships. We keep moving all the time, day and night, It takes roughly 2 days to make the journey down and 2 days to make the journey back. It's about a total of 5 days with the loading and the unloading involved. The workdays broke down in a 3-watch system. They work from 12 midnight to 4 a.m., from 12 noon to 4 p.m. That's the same people. Then they'll go from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., same people. Then they go from 8 to 12, same way.
Geez, John, I got my wife here. I got a paycheck still period.
They come from all over the whole United States. The unlicensed crew can work 90 days and get a vacation for 30 days, unpaid. And then the officers work 60 daes and they can take off 20 or 30, whatever is their choice.
We're in charge of the vessel for the 4-hour period that we stand each watch. I've been sailing since coming out of high school.
Yeah, as chief engineer aboard the boats, you're in charge of the main propulsion unit, the unloading equipment, heating and air conditioning, and all your electrical controllers and maintenance of all the equipment. It's a full-time job, depending on how everything runs, but there's a lot of scheduling of maintenance and follow-up work on all the different equipment to keep everything running. And, after graduation from high school, I went to the Great Lakes Maritime Academy in Traverse City for 3 straight years and earned my third assistant engineer's license, and then I went to work for American Steamship and have come up through the ranks. I've been sailing chief engineer now for 4 years with American Steamship.
I started as a deckhand in the early 50s. The 50s weren't the best for employment. Hearing from other people, there was employment aboard the Great Lakes, and I found my way up to Buffalo. Next thing, I found myself on a very small, which the vessels were at that time, it was under 500 foot long. It had just unloaded grain in Buffalo, which was the hub of the Great Lakes at that time, because the seaway wasn't completed for large vessels. We had very small, what they called canal ships that came into the Great Lakes that entered the St. Lawrence Seaway. The St. Lawrence Seaway wasn't developed until 1960 during the Eisenhower administration to allow larger vessels to enter the Great Lakes.
My father was a chief engineer with United States Steel, and the boat he was on was the steamer Cedarville, and it was traveling through the Straits of Mackinac on a foggy day, and it collided with a foreign vessel. Before all the personnel could get off the ship, it sank and took the lives of 15 crew members, and my father was one of them. Every now and then I think about it out here in the lakes, but I still feel secure on these boats. It wasn't really a defect in the boat, it was a freak accident that happened, and unfortunately, you know, he didn't make it off. Well, that happened, I was 14 years old, I was still in high school. Naturally, it changed my life somewhat there. I kind of assumed the leadership in the family there of helping my mother and that. It was a bad experience, but it made a better person out of me. The boats are bigger, but you're carrying less personnel. There's more automation on the boats, so the crew numbers have been cut. Nowadays, out on the lakes here, the Coast Guard has more rules and regulations. The company has more rules and regulations. Although you're not working 24 hours a day with all the different regulations and the rules that you have to comply with, I think the stress level has grown a great deal out here in the last 17 years.
But the engineers are working in the locks. Well, I married in the meantime, and I raised a family of 5 girls and 1 boy. There is a lot of loneliness to the job in itself. There's quite a bit of loneliness, and why I'm saying that, being a father of 6 children, we've missed out an awful lot. We've missed out on the birthdays of the children. Those little special events, we do miss out on those. As a rule, and when I did start to sail, we would look forward mainly to Christmas. We would get home for Christmas, which is not the case any longer.
My mother never, after when I told her I was going to the Maritime Academy, she never really expressed openly any dislike for the fact, but I think to this day nervous and worries about me being out on the lake. But she realizes again that it was an accident, not really a fault of the ship.
And we do it year-round. Well, as far as navigation goes, the winter months curtails our sailing, and we just can't operate after it gets so severe that the channels become clogged and heavily packed with ice.
Usually in the engine room you have 2 people on watch. You have a 3-watch system. You work 4 hours on, 8 hours off. In the engine room you're usually looking at 8 to 9 men, and on the conveyor system you have a personnel of 3.
Lake Superior in the fall is very challenging because it creates some awful storms up here at times, but we try to stay out of them. Usually it provides you with some means of altering your course somewhere to get away from all the real severe weather. And on occasions you do get caught into it, but you try to get out of it. If you were a historian, you'd really appreciate this business because there's so much history up here in this Lake Superior. And it goes back so many years. Even by the time the Jesuits first arrived here, it was all trapped out already. A lot of people don't know that. So they've been life up here a long, long time. And the River St. Mary's and the River St. Clair in Detroit, it's so beautiful down in through there.
They're primarily at the Sioux locks, 2 locks that are used by vessels, the McCarthy lock and the Pole lock. Any boats that are over approximately 72 feet in width have to use the pole lock, such as the St. Clair, which is 92 feet wide.
I figure we're just about up on the locks here. I figure you ought to be able to tie up before I get out there. I'll go over the other side anyway.
Entering the lock to leaving the lock, it approximately takes 1 hour, and you drop 22 feet. They lower you from the Lake Superior level down 22 feet to St. Mary, lower St. Mary's River level.
There was the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald in 1975. I just happened to be on Lake Superior that day.
Sometimes in November and December, when you get the wicked winds up in Lake Superior and that, it makes me a little fearful, knowing that, a family member at one time had been lost at the sea, and hearing the different stories. But depending on the captain of the vessel and the vessel you're on, you usually feel pretty secure.
Everybody has their own beliefs of why it sunk and everything else, but he was in a bad predicament, that Fitzgerald. He had no radar and storm and everything else, so we were way on the west end of the lake there.
How is lake sailing different from ocean sailing?
Probably the prime difference is that you're busier. The ship is always doing something. You're going into port or out of port, or loading or unloading, or running in the rivers or something. You've always got something to do. It isn't the same routine stuff every day.
I think Lake Superior, you do experience, it never seems to really warm up there. It's such an open lake and wide and long that when the winds blow, you realize more of a sea out there. So your chances of having a smooth ride are greater on the lower lakes where you don't have the body of water like you do in Lake Superior.
The wives are a very important part of this, and perhaps girlfriends too. The women probably have it a lot more difficult than the man, because they're not only the mother, they're the father, and they have to keep the whole show running at home, and they're involved with children until the children are grown up, of course. Whereas the men here on the ship, you're always involved with grown-ups, you know, and you've got a job to do, and you're talking with grown-ups all the time. And I think that the man has got the easier job of the separation part of it. Everybody can't do this job because both men and women, if they can't stand the loneliness of being away or the separation. On occasion, we do have women on board ships. They have it very difficult because they're mostly confined to themselves, although they have to live just like any shipboard personnel. They're not treated any special way. It's difficult for a woman to work aboard a ship. Well, we did raise 8 children there. With 3 of the boys were involved into this industry, but one of them has dropped out since in the last 10 years. They sort of missed that growing up too. At the time when those kids were small, we were gone most of the time. You didn't have that time off. They missed you. They missed the parent, the male parent, and I know they did. At the time, the man is doing a job to try to support a family.
I'm sure both my grandfather and my father enjoyed their jobs. From what I can remember of them, they died when I was at a young age, but they always would come home and tell stories of what went on the boat, and they seemed to enjoy it. And I think that left an impression upon me that it was a good life, and I've enjoyed my years of sailing out here. And like I say, it's a little more stressful, but there's still good times and relaxing times that you can enjoy and meet good people and enjoy it.
Years ago, the ships were a lot smaller. You say you carried 6,000 to 7,000 tons. Today, they carry as high as 60,000 and 70,000 tons. So you're replacing 10 ships. The potential for advancement is not as great as it was years ago. And of course, there's a lot of people don't want advancement. They're stagnated in their one position. A lot of them don't want to go any higher, but there still is room for employment and advancement. It runs in spurts though, like you'll have a huge retirement at one time, and then they'll go for a long period where there's nobody retires. The cook is very important because if you got a bad cook, you got an unsatisfied crew. Our cook is a very, very good cook here. We've had several of them this year. They've all been pretty good. He spends a lot of time in that galley there, and he's a retired military man. He knows his business. Waste is a very important item, and he doesn't do any wasting of anything. We got 3 people in the galley down there. There's a second cook who does all the baking, and we have one porter who's a dishwasher, and he keeps the galley clean, the mess room clean. We have fresh baked goods every day, practically all fresh food. We buy our stores up in Superior, Wisconsin, so they don't really have to have a lot on hand because we can get them about every 5 or 6 days.
Water's out of 5.
The ship can be run with about 5 people, 3 on deck and 2 in the engine room. Of course, during the day we have day workers, so there's usually quite a few people around during the day.
Yeah, that's it right there.
There's 3 mates on the ship. The bosun is the first mate's right arm. He takes care of all of the work on deck to see that it's all followed through. Then you've got the engine staff. You got a chief and 4 assistant engineers, one of which is a day worker, and he's busy all the time. They have 3 watch standing engineers, and they stand the same watch system as we do. Outside of that, there's 3 oilers that continually monitor the gauges in the engine room. We have a chief conveyorman, takes care of the unloading of the ship, and they have 2 gatemen down there. They operate gates by a hydraulic system. It dumps into a central point and then out on the boom. On my left here is the unloading boom. This is 250 feet long, and it can go from right to position it's at to 90 degrees of beam on either side. And its rated capacity is 7,000 tons an hour unloading coal. And iron ore we make about 7,500 tons an hour.
Let's start using her around towards that 72, all right?
It requires more education due to the different automation systems to keep the boats running. So, it requires a little more talent and skill than it did years ago.
The Great Lakes in general, I think is the most ideal part of our country. It's overlooked by so many people. It really is vital to our whole country. It proved itself during World War II when the key amount of iron ore was being lessened for our country. There was no way of bringing in the iron ore other than our Great Lakes, and our Great Lakes literally made all the tanks, the trucks, the jeeps, the howitzers, you name it, for the war effort. The Great Lakes area was one of the biggest factors of the industrial part of our country. There's been a great many changes since I started in itself, but the Great Lakes, I think, is still going to rebound to come back to what it was. We no longer need large crews where the steamers, we had to have firemen to maintain the furnaces, we had to have coal passers to bring the coal out to the furnaces, and oiler had to continually oil the engines as they were being run, extra deck crews. It was a physical job. It wasn't an easy job. Today, the modern ship has taken really the labor out of sailing.
Time off on the boat, you spend a lot of time reading, a lot of time just sitting around thinking of what's going on ashore and what you're missing, watching TV. Once in a while there's a poker game or a card game to watch. You find different types of relaxation, some exercising, although it's minimal. But other than that, it's mostly confinement to your room or to someone in the galley talking to somebody.
The lakes are a beautiful place in the country, and it's just the allurement of water to begin with. Everybody has an attraction to water. That's why we're all down on beaches and canoeing and the commercial crafts and water skiing. It's just an enjoyable thing. Weather-wise, on this given run, and especially Lake Superior, it's ideal. As of right now, it's 52 degrees outside, and here it is the 19th of July, which is probably down in the Detroit area or the Cleveland area where it's 80 to 90 degrees with very high humidity. And then you can see it's a very pleasant day here on Lake Superior. The lower lakes, the Lake Erie, with the high humidity and the high temperatures, that still really maintains the heat, and boy, after 4 hours of standing on the deck, your feet really cook. Inside here, it's fine. We're an air-conditioned vessel, and well, that's the way. It's really nice inside.
I like the history of the lakes, see a lot of territory, meet a lot of nice people.
Transiting the different rivers is always different. It seems that you always seem to pick up on different things. I've always enjoyed, I spent a lot of time out on deck just taking in the scenery, especially as you see the seasons change. There's so many changes along the river. I always find it interesting to go and travel it in the spring and the fall and in the winter time when it's snowing and the ice on the lakes and that. It's interesting and amusing to see some of these different things.
No, I really do not miss the boat when I'm off the boat. I do not. Other people might say they do, but my own self, I do not miss the boat when I'm off the boat. I enjoy my time off. Our time off is used in whatever manner a person, if he has interest in reading, or we do have television aboard the vessel, and we have it aboard our own personal room our own televisions or VCRs or whatever have you, whatever a person enjoys. This is a very expensive vessel, many millions of dollars invested here. It's run by very trained and capable people.
Looks like it's getting better there now.
They're all type of people, and the person can go up the ladder as high as it's possible. Whatever permitted, if you stick with your job, you advance to whatever position you would like.
How's it feel to be back to work?
I become attached to the ship. There's some of them that always have that soft spot. I've just always liked the shipping. You know, like I say, I don't know if it's the paycheck or just the ship itself, but I don't know what I look forward to without that.